Hello and welcome to today's episode of Dream Business, Dream Life. Today I'm joined by Hayley Keeber. Hayley is a qualified business strategist, freedom expert to mumpreneurs and mum of three. Her passion is helping mumpreneurs to build, grow and scale their businesses around their family. Of course, like so many other business owners, Hayley's mission is built on the back of her own lived experience. And today we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Hello, Hayley. Great to have you here with us today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Right, let's dive straight on. Tell me a little bit about yourself pre business owner.
Pre-business owner. My journey, I think, really started when I became a mum at 22, much to my parents' delight. And so I became a mum to my daughter Sydney, who is now 13. She was 13 at the weekend. And at the time, I was working in recruitment. So I was working in medical recruitment. I did that for 6 years, where I was helping really high earning professionals like doctors and consultants to run their careers around their families a lot of the time. And then 6 years after that, I then did education recruitment. So I relocated from where I was living to where I'm living now and did education recruitment. And what I found with that is I was helping so many mums to build like their own careers around their families. And that's really where my journey started, to be honest.
Yay, exciting. So what made you think, do you know what, I'm going to do this for myself? Because you didn't do exactly the same thing, did you? Because you don't do recruitment now. So what was the moment that you said, this is what I'm going to do instead?
Yeah, so there was a really poignant moment in my recruitment role. So basically, I started my new job in the education recruitment sector, and I remember I did my first 2 weeks. I did that in like our head office where you do all the training, and I loved it. I couldn't wait to go to like my branch. So I went into the branch, and there was five of us that worked in there, all women, five women, and they were lovely women. I walked in and everyone spoke to me, bar the manager. And that's not unusual in recruitment because for the first 2 hours of recruitment, it is like head down, busy, busy, busy up till about 9 o'clock. So from 7 till 9, it was really busy. And my manager just literally didn't say anything. So I thought, okay, that's fine. Got to about 9:30 in the morning. And she came over and she just said to me, like, no, hi, Hayley, how are you? It was just, so Hayley, have you got any children? And I was like, yep. I was like, yeah, 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 I've got a daughter. And she was like, yeah, I know. I found out via Facebook. I'm absolutely disgusted. I would never have hired you if I'd known you were a mum because I just think mums are a faff. And you know when something goes in, and I was like shell shocked, and everyone in the room went silent, and I was like, oh my goodness, okay, right. And there was another girl that I'd started with at the time, and she did law at university, and so she sort of jumped in and was like, whoa, 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 like we can't be saying things like that. But it hit that nerve with me because I was the only mum in that room. And I was like, right. And I've heard of discrimination, like with mums being a mum, we feel discriminated in like workplaces and we don't get treated fairly. But I have to say, I never really felt that before. It never happened to me. I was really lucky until that moment. And so that kind of sent me on a journey of, right, I now know I don't want to work for anyone else now. I want to work for myself because I don't want to ever feel like that again. I'm not a faff. I know I'm not. I'm a really hard worker. Actually turned out was probably one of the best in the company at the towards the end of it. I was earning one of the highest salaries there. But by the by, the hard work that I put in and what I had to juggle, and also what you have to give up as a mum, right? To work generally. I was like, do you know what? I'm never going to be made to feel like that again. Not ever, not by anybody. And so that really led me on a path of how can I help mums build something for themselves. Like, how can I take mums out of that situation and build something for themselves? And then I sort of stumbled across being a strategist and working online. Like, the whole online working like was a little bit alien to me, I'm not gonna lie. And so when I started to encroach on it and I found it, and then I started to go down the rabbit hole of finding out what I could do, and that's how I ended up qualifying as a business strategist. And I thought, I love it. This is what I want to do. I want to help mums grow and scale their businesses so that they never get made to feel that way. They never have to choose between being a mum and being a career woman, because I feel a lot of the time we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. If we're a mum and we work, then we're selfish. If we want a career, we're selfish and we're not putting the kids first. But ultimately, if we're a mum staying at home, we're lazy. And then we're scrounging off of like husbands and partners and stuff. And I just think you can't win, can you, ever? So that was how it all came about.
Wow, mums are a faff. That honestly, you hear these things, don't you? And you just think, how can that actually happen? How can somebody actually, a manager in a firm, just turn around to you and say, I wouldn't have recruited you basically if I'd known you were a mum? It's
Mm.
unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And it amazes me every time I hear a story similar. And sadly, we do hear that story, not the same story, but similar stories where mums have felt that they have no alternative other than to give up a career, not have a business, not do all of these things purely because there is an expectation that they are a mum. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when my youngest was a little was young. I started my career when I was a mum at 16, so I was even younger than you. And I started my corporate career when I was 18. And my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, was just my boyfriend, I suppose, at the time. His job was evening type work. Most of his job was. So I could work in the day. He could do the school runs and things like that. And back then it was so unheard of, because going back to like 1993-ish type time, back then it was unheard of really for men to be doing the school run and the and all of that type of stuff. And I used to, if I walked up to that, if the odd time that I did do the school run, I felt like everybody stared at me walking up the drive, because it was like, oh, that's the one that doesn't look after her own children. So it's weird, isn't it? Now, whether that was just all in my head, I don't know. I don't know. But I definitely used to feel like the odd one out on the playground on the odd time I did the run. Funnily, my husband never felt that way, and he was the only dad, but he never felt that way.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, I totally understand where you're coming from, because when I was in recruitment, I was working 60-hour weeks. And so my husband was doing a lot of the school runs. And again, very similar to you, like I'd turn up in like, all my sort of office wear, and it'd be like, what on earth does she do? Like, is she just like the auntie that's come to pick her up, or what? And it's sort of like, and then I sort of felt like no one would really talk to you because you weren't in the playground clique, because you weren't there, right? And it was like, oh, well, where are you then? But it's so normal to work. I don't understand
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It is to me. It is completely to me, because I've always done it and I've enjoyed doing it, and I've enjoyed being a mum too, and being able to find the balance and everything else. But it is so much more difficult, isn't it, when you're working for somebody else? It is so much more difficult when you're doing that. But it's not always easy being a mum and having your own business, is it?
No. No, it's not.
No,
No.
absolutely not. So what are some of the main challenges that you probably come across with your clients when when it's being a mum and trying to grow this successful business?
Yeah, so my children now, because I've got three now. So I've got Sydney who's 13, I've got Chase that's 3, and I've got Landon that's 17 months old. So of course I've got the younger end of the scale as well. And so the biggest juggle for me and my clients that I speak to as well is 9 times out of 10 actually time management. That's the biggest juggle. It's not doing the job, it's finding those pockets of time and getting uninterrupted time as well. That's the thing. Like when you've got older children, it's okay because you can kind of explain to them, right, I'm working now, they can go off, watch the telly, do what they've got to do. But you try explaining that to two young children, like two young toddlers that have got absolutely no idea what mummy's talking about. That's the juggle. So it is the juggle that I find the hardest. But you get a routine. Once you've got a routine going, and that's the love of having your own business, right? You can set your own hours and you can set your own days. And honestly, if I didn't have my mum and my mother-in-law to help me out, I just don't know what I'd do, to be honest with you. It is difficult. But, at the same time, it's like businesses. I know it sounds really strange, but business is like a little bit like my own self-care. So when people say like you've got to make time for your self-care, I know it sounds strange, but my business is my self-care because I genuinely love it. And it is what lights me up and it's what gets me up every day. So I just love it. Yeah. I just
Yeah,
love the balance.
that's it. And I think that's the magic bit, isn't it? If you find something that you can do to make money, a business, and you love it, you're passionate about it, you always find the way to make it work. There's
Yeah.
always a way, isn't there? There is always a way. For me, what I see with clients when there's that unalignment type piece is quite often because actually they're not passionate about what they're doing. They're doing what they do because either it's what they've always done, because we do that, don't we? Or because it's just a path that they've got pulled into and it's making them money, so it's difficult to move or realign that. So I think that's a key thing. And I know you talk about, finding the balance with your lifestyle. And I do too. I'm exactly the same. We help different people, but, the same principle there. And that's the key bit, isn't it? Finding that thing that is your passion.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Like, if there is not true alignment there, and that's something that I do go through with my clients when we first work together, we make sure that the alignment is right. And I always come from a lifestyle first point of view. So I fundamentally don't believe that we need to be working 12-hour days to run a successful business, regardless of what we see online. I just don't think it's true. I honestly fundamentally believe that our lifestyle should come first. My children will always come first. My priority as a mum will always come first. It has to. But ultimately, we also get to run our lives and sort of sculpt our lives so that our business can fit in there nicely. And I just think once you've kind of got that strategy, because I know obviously you do your strategies too, it's like once you have that strategy that works for you and your business is so aligned with you, it does tend to fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes back to, doesn't it? You talk about, you don't have to have, work 12 hours or whatever to have a successful business. And I think this is where it's important to understand what is success to you, because it is so different for so many people. And it's very clear for you. It's very much about your children, your home, your family life. And you will then create the strategy, the plans, the business model, and everything else that sits around it that enables you to do that first. And I think that's the key, isn't it? You've got to know what success means to you because it isn't the same for everybody, is it?
No, absolutely. I think it's so easy, especially in the online world. What I've noticed is that everyone talks about getting to six figures, multi six figures, 10K months, 50K months, £1 million, whatever it might be. And actually, that might not be what success is to you. It might be that you just want to replace your salary. Well, in that case, once you've done that's your success, right? And then anything above that is a bonus, but you're still successful. But I think that we live in a world where if we're not doing more and more and more and more and more, we're failing in some way. And I just don't see it. I just don't see that that's failure.
No, no. And I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. What would you say was the scariest thing for you when you started your business or at any point during your business journey? What would you say was the scariest thing you've had to do?
So the scariest thing for me was when I left recruitment because I left recruitment in 2020. Obviously, COVID hit. Then I found out I was pregnant. had no income. Well, me and my husband have got a business on the side. Like, so we've got another business, which is a carpentry business, but full disclaimer, I'm not a carpenter, he is. And it's very much his baby. And it's a successful business in its own right, and it's paying the bills, but my recruitment was like what we, it's what we lived on, it's what we did everything with. And okay, it was fine in COVID when everything shut down because we couldn't go anywhere, and so we were all saving money, and so it wasn't too bad. But when everything opened up and I didn't have anything, and then I went to start this business and then found out I was pregnant with my youngest, and it was like every time I went to start I fell pregnant, so I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to start eventually, otherwise I'm just going to keep having babies. And so when I did start, I didn't have an income of any form from myself. And I've always had my own form of income. And that was the scariest bit. And I think sometimes as well online, I don't know if you find this, but it's kind of that smoke and mirrors that, oh, look, you start this business and poof, along comes all this income and along comes all these clients and along comes all this stuff. And it just doesn't work like that. And you have to grind for it, and you have to work for it, and you have to also be patient, right? If I could teach anyone anything, is like patience. You've got to be patient with it. And that was the scariest bit. Like, how long is it going to take in order for me to start seeing a return on the hard work that I'm putting in?
Yeah, yeah. And that is quite often how long's a piece of string, isn't it? That's one of
Hmm.
those questions that you literally cannot answer for anybody. In all of these, we can make you 10K in a month, and all of, we can do this overnight, and eyeball roll, completely. It doesn't happen that way, does it at all? You have to work hard. When you first launch any business, you have to work hard. And the less hours you've got, and if you're a mum and you've got young children, you've probably got less hours than somebody who hasn't got young children. That's a matter of fact, isn't it? You can't hide from that fact. It's likely to take a little bit longer, and I think you have to accept that stuff, don't you? Like you say, you've got to be patient. You've got to trust the process sometimes as well, and trust your gut instinct when you're doing it. But I think there's lots of things, isn't there, that lots of stages in business, wherever you are in business, where something feels scary. And I think that when something feels scary, I always say that's because you're about to go through another growth spell.
Yes, absolutely. They say, don't they, lean into it. That's what I say to my clients. Like, I know this feels uncomfortable right now, but please lean into it, because this is like your next stage. And it's just your limiting beliefs telling you, trying to keep you safe and trying to hold you off. Those little mind monkeys will come out. It doesn't matter what stage of business you're at, whether you're at, the £1 million mark or you're just starting out, you are going to get that, because everything new is scary, isn't it? It's only when you've done it multiple times does the fear go.
That's it. That's it. And also, the longer you put it off, all you're doing is make yourself scared for longer. So you may as well just take that leap. Just give it a go. See how it feels. You never know. I'm all for the messy action, me. I'm all for give it a go and see what happens. So are your clients early on in the journey, or does it vary? Where are your clients at? Who do you work with?
Yeah, it varies. So I've got some that are kind of, going for that 100K mark, they're near on there. And then I've got others that are just sort of starting out in their journeys, sort of in between that sort of that peripheral, if you like. But yeah, so yeah, I sort of take them through whatever stage they're at, because I just think a lot of what I do is simplifying things. What I tend to find is people come to me completely overwhelmed, and they've overcomplicated the whole situation, like the whole business model. They've just overcomplicated it. And actually, what we do is we get down to the nitty gritty of what they actually want to achieve. Again, what is aligned to them? What do they actually want to achieve? And we simplify everything. So we work on their strategy, we work on the structure and the systems that they have in place as well, and we make sure that it all systemizes and streamlines as well.
Yeah, yeah. That happens a lot, doesn't it? People overcomplicate their business. Why do you think that is? I've got my theories, but I'd love to know yours.
My theories are that they try and take on everything themselves. Um, B, they watch what everyone else is doing online, and they just try and think, oh well, this is working for so and so. And I see this a lot, like if I'm working with a client and I'm like, right, this is the strategy we're going to go for, and then we'll catch up sometime in the week and it'll be like, right, so how's it going? And it'll be like, well, I haven't done that because I saw so and so online do this, so I thought I'd try it. And I'm like, right, okay, start again. This isn't going to necessarily work for you, because what works for one is not going to work for another. There's a million ways to make £1,000,000, as the saying goes. And so we, like we've just said, we have to trust that process. But that's my theory as to why the overwhelm kicks in. It's that comparisonitis all the time.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I would have said exactly the same thing in my own words, of course, but I would have said exactly the same thing. It's very easy, though, isn't it, to get pulled into this. I suppose it's a trap, isn't it, of seeing those people who are doing really well, looking like they're doing really well. We never know what's going on behind the scenes, and we have to remember that, don't we? We see these people that what's going on underneath. Nobody can see my hands going like they're crazy now, but you're quite often paddling underneath, aren't they? Even the people who look like they're super successful, but people see that and they think, I have to do what they're doing because that obviously works. And then they have a go, and then it doesn't work, and it's not because it wouldn't work for them, it's because it either isn't something that's aligned to them, it's not something that their ideal client wants or needs. um they're not passionate about the way that that person does it. There's lots of reasons, isn't there, why one strategy simply won't work for the next person.
Absolutely, because what, one person, so for me personally, I'm not great at writing. I find writing really hard. It's just something that even back at school, like my English teacher, she used to be like, she's great at talking, she can talk the talk, but she can't put it down on paper. And I've never been good at writing, but I can talk to anybody and I can execute what I want to say verbally. But for somebody who is more shy and wouldn't want to talk, but can execute what they say, in the written language, like writing it down, that would be brilliant for them. So there's no point in us, you know, one copying anybody else, because it just doesn't work that way.
No, no, but we can see why it happens. We can see why people
Yeah,
feel that
100%.
that's the way that they need to go to make it happen. And I think, like you say, it's just working with your clients and yourself, isn't it? Working with ourselves to actually get completely clear on what we enjoy doing, why we enjoy doing it, how we enjoy doing it, and all of that stuff. Because once you know what you enjoy and how you like to work, how you like to show up, you're going to grow much, much quicker because you're going to be doing things that you enjoy doing. And I always say that, if you're consistent with something, you're going to keep doing it more frequently. And consistency is driven by passion, isn't it? The more passionate you are, the more consistent you are. Um, so tell me one top tip for our listeners.
Oh, a top tip would be, okay, if you are overwhelmed, like a lot of people are when they come to me, and you feel, that you don't know which way to turn half the time, you feel like you're juggling all the balls. One of my top tips that I give people is to make sure that you're time blocking your days. That has been the one savior for me, especially if you've got children or if you've got a full-time job that you're juggling as well. Make sure that you time block your days, because you will have more time in your day than you realize.
Fantastic. And I think that's a great point, isn't it? I think we often forget. We assume we haven't got time, but it's actually what we're doing with that time, isn't it, that matters. So time blocking is a great, great tip. So finally, Hayley, if any other listeners want to learn a little bit more about you, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
So I'm mainly over on Instagram. So it's Hayley Keeber Strategist over on Instagram.
Fabulous. And I will share all of that in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for joining me. It has been great chatting. And thank you to everybody else for listening. We will see you next time.